I used to work at UCLA back in the good old days, and I worked in the Cultural Museum at UCLA, and my job was the inventory clerk, which meant that I had to go into the archives and basically make sure that everything that's supposed to be there was there, and also to make sure that it was in relatively good shape. I'd have to look for damage and things like that. Always a pleasure, because we actually had one of the masks. It's a long story, a very interesting story, where UCLA acquired one of the masks, the African masks that was hanging in Pablo Picasso's studio in the early 1900s. It had slipped into a collection by accident that a museum in Britain which bought the pieces didn't realize the significance of it until someone realized that it was actually hanging above his head in one of those famous photographs, and that was actually the piece. So it's always fun to go in there and look at things like that. But among that, also, one of the things that I had to look for were these from the Igbo tribe over in Africa. There's a great desire to have twins, and because of that, what they would do is, before, when a woman would get pregnant, they would carve these figures, and they'd always carve two of these little figures about 6 inches tall by about 4 inches wide, called orishas. And that's actually where orishas come from. Kind of these little figures that would, quote unquote, ensure that the woman would have twins. And so, obviously, if I'm counting orishas, there should be an even number of them, because they're always made in twins. Well, I had come to the end of counting all the orishas that we had, and there was an odd number, and I couldn't remember at the time that they were called orishas, so I remember blurting out saying, "There's only 17 pygmies here." And at that moment, I just said, wow, if I ever have a band, I'm going to call it 17 Pygmies. And that's where the name comes from. I was true to my word. I, in fact, named in the next band I was in 17 Pygmies.
Of 3 minds, the part of the mind, the light we chose.
my only music experience I had at all before starting Savage Republic, which was technically my second band, was I played clarinet. I was in the school band and all those nonsensical things in high school, and not high school, junior high. And so I knew how to play clarinet. I ran off to college at some point in my illustrious career. And interestingly enough, I didn't really have any particular desire to be in a band. But what happened is I got hauled into a band called Them Rhythm Ants, which if you can find the single, it's quite an amazing feat. Wow, that's amazing. And the reason I was in that band was because my faux girlfriend at the time wanted to be in a band. And so what basically happened was her friend's boyfriend was Bruce Leischer, who later started Savage Republic with me. Basically, we were really the two that started the band. And we were in this band together, and we kind of looked at each other and said, well, gee, maybe we could be in another band rather than this band. Because the faux girlfriends were, well, Hilda was still my faux girlfriend, and his girlfriend Caroline has pretty much dumped him. So that band was going nowhere quick. And so he was in a band called Bridge, and he said, well, I'm in Bridge already. And I said, well, if you ever have time to start another band, I think it would be interesting to take some of the Bridge, which is kind of a cold and austere and kind of krautrocky band and things like that, and let's go ahead and take it and maybe add some more international flavors to it and see if that works. And at some point, I don't remember exactly when, but Bruce actually came up to me and said, hey, you want to do that or not? And I was like, sure. And he said he had a drummer who was Mark Erskine, and I said, I got a bass player who at the time was 14-year-old Jeff Long. So, and then sure enough, we went into the tunnels, those legendary tunnels at UCLA that you hear about with Savage Republic and the Urinals, and a couple other bands I think played down there, mostly because it was free and because you had that incredible natural reverb echo, really a neat sound. Everything sounds super spooky when you're down there, and that's how the band began, really.
When I dream
When 17 Pygmies started, it was mostly musical, just in a musical direction, because I know this is going to sound horrible. I don't know why I'm putting this on tape, but even up to the time when I was in college, I didn't know who Brian Eno was. I just had no idea. My favorite album was Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. I didn't even know what Sgt. Pepper was. I mean, that's how little about music I knew. And here I was, like, going to UCLA. It was kind of a strange experience. And so all of a sudden, I'm learning about all these other bands and this and that and whatever else have you, and people doing things differently. And I can't say there was really one band that really said to me, there's more to life than Savage Republic. But I could probably name some of the groups that had an influence on me. I'm just looking at these people saying, wow, this is just amazing stuff. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with doing all these different musics with different influences and different kind of, ideas. I mean, it seemed to be a pretty, for better or for worse, back then the LA scene was, way more of an open palette than it is now. That's for darn sure. Or most scenes, quite frankly. And, I remember hearing my first Brian Eno record, which probably sparked my interest in soundtracks, probably, arguably. I remember seeing Monitor numerous times, very, very important LA band, who were doing all sorts of music with all sorts of influences. That was very important. The lists go on and on of just all these bands that were doing something different. The one thing that kind of held it together for me that made me want to leave the SR fold was I did want something more musical. I mean, I wanted something that was more melodic, something that had more to do with some kind of structure and musical direction, not so rhythmic, not so kind of, I don't want to say this because it's not terribly accurate, but I mean, the emo of the day is, that was the emo of the day, and that's all there was to it. And I love emotion, and I love emotional music, don't get me wrong, but there's, many, many different sides to the musical spectrum, and, emotion will only get you so far. And then I think you have to start making, as you hopefully grow as a human being, you'll start making other statements that are, more reflective of whatever growth or perhaps even lack of growth you might exhibit at that time. But I mean, even at that time, we're talking 25 years ago, I was very, at least for me, very clear on that. Music is very much a process. You end up with something, but there's this long period that comes before. There's this long period that comes after each piece. It just sort of does what it does. Yeah. I don't think there was ever a time until the very end when every member of 17 Pygmies wasn't in at least 2 other bands, if not 3. And of course, there's the ever-present I'm going to walk out and do my solo record. That was very prevalent back there. It was kind of a fashion statement. I mean, everyone knew you wouldn't do it, but you had to say you would. Otherwise, you weren't a serious artist. I mean, it's just, well, I'm going to make my solo record now.
What's the closest you came to making a solo record?
Well, I never really had to do that, though, because I was, for better or for worse, always pretty much near the top of the food chain in the bands, particularly in 17 Pygmies. So, I mean, to me, with the exception of side 1 of Welcome, all the other records kind of really reflect my aesthetic more than anyone else in the band. So, particularly early on, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to really quite put it this way, but, I mean, there is more to life than playing in bands. And,
there you go.
At that point, even 17 years ago, not to date myself, but I'd already, been in bands and on the road for about 12 years.
Yeah.
Consistently, and, it gets very tiring. And I don't really know quite how to explain what made me quit. I mean, just go cold turkey and just say I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But the short version would be, it's like I just sat down one day and I just said, I just have nothing to say. I just have nothing to say. And I remember very consciously sitting down and thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, for me, it's like I decided to go and do anything else, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So just one of those things where I guess,
Sure.
there just has to be some raison d'etre for me to do music, I suppose, or whatever, do anything, I guess. But there just was nothing left to say. So I guess, and one part about me was very happy about that, because then I kind of assumed I said something, which made me happy. But, it just seemed like anything going forward, I would just be recycling things that, say something once, why say it again? So.
Very, very well put.
Well, thank you.
I think you stole that from a Talking Heads song.
Indeed.
Yep.
Same as it ever was. Sorry.
This ain't no disco. So, but then what sort of prompted, after all that time, to sort of play music again? Was it just sort of new things to say, I guess, or?
Well, that's the short version. The short version was, I'd moved around a lot, and not just visited a lot of places, lived in a lot of places. And so I started, for me personally, to kind of take in more of the scene and more of the flavor of how other people live and what they do and what they listen to, and the importance of Walmart and American society came home to me. And it's kind of a meeting place where, big and small all meet at Walmart. Really remarkable. It's like the type of thing where, you go to, a Walmart on the weekend and you actually spend your whole day there. It's kind of amazing. But having sort of seen all these other kind of experiences, I mean, a lot of them were just musical too, because one of the, good, bad, or indifferent about music is, for instance, if you're down, in Texas or Arizona or something like that, and you turn on any given radio station, it's probably going to have you're going to have more country stations, you're going to have more kind of music that relates down there. Just a different feel to it, a lot more blues, a lot more Cajun music. I mean, you just run into it all the time. And so running into more and more of these kind of influences, I mean, finally at the end of it all, it took like 15 years later, but then 15 years later, it's kind of like, well, I guess I finally have more to say, and now I have like a new musical palette to say it. So that interested me as well. Kind of the message and the medium sort of started to come together for me again. And that's why I started writing songs again.
Great. Excellent. Now, the listeners can't see this, but you have instruments brandished.
We do. And
do you guys want to play like one song, and then maybe we'll do some more records and stuff? We can play some of your older things, and we can come back, talk some more, and we can just kind of like periodically throughout type thing, or?
Sure.
Okay, so do you guys want to? Do you want to hit it?
Oh, okay. So what should we do? New Generation. No, I don't want to play New Generation. Heck with that song. Let's do Like This Train. That one I can actually play.
Okay.
Okay, and it's kind of a cool song to play, because it kind of has more of that. It's not like the old stuff. It shows that 17-year gap, I guess. And I'm like this train, I'm rolling down the track. Got a schedule to keep, and I can't turn back, and I can't turn left, and I can't turn right. And the light that you say in the middle of the night is coming straight on for you. Straight on for you. I'm coming straight on for you. So you better, yeah, you better, hey, get out of my way. And like this train, I don't need any sleep. All I need is a way. All I need is a way to stay warm at night. Yeah, all I need is a way. All I need is a way to stay warm at night. And any port in a storm is better than none, so I'm coming, yeah, straight on for you. Coming straight on for you. Straight on for you. So you better, yeah, you better, hey, get out of my way. Yeah, there's something going on in the parking lot. And the headlights going down in the parking lot. And the seats are going down in the parking lot. Yeah, there's something going on in the parking lot, but it does not explain. No, that does not explain why you're like a liquor store where the doors never close. No matter how much I get, I keep it coming back, I keep it coming back, yeah. You're like a liquor store where the doors never close. No matter how much I get, I keep it coming back, I'm coming back, yeah. Straight on for you. Coming straight on for you. Yeah, hey, straight on for you. So you better, yeah, you better, hey, get out of my way. So I got a schedule to keep. And I gotta stay warm. Yeah, I gotta stay warm. We called it quits, and I mean, I can't even call it a hiatus. The band had broken up. There was really no intentions for myself or, at the time, Robert Lovelace to record anything ever again. We'd pretty much gone our separate ways, and I just got a call from him out of the blue, and he said that he had a really hot singer and that we should consider doing some more pieces together. And I was kind of like, well, I guess. I don't know. I mean, why not? And that happened to be, that was Louise, who I didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know it was his girlfriend at the time. Nobody told me that. Soon-to-be wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we started doing these songs together. And it was pretty cool. You know, it worked pretty well. And what started to come out of that was just along the way, of course, now that the band had broken up, kind of putting it back together in these bizarre ways, making, clearly even detouring from the quote-unquote poppy accessibility of Captured in Ice. And so Island Records signs this, of course. I mean, why not? How do they always find a way to sign the band that has absolutely positively no hope in the future, either economically, socially, or musically? But that's what it did. And the band kind of, with a major label behind us, we figured, well, hell, this is worth doing. And so we went ahead and Robert finished side 1. That's kind of his vision, the kind of opium-driven circus stuff. And then, it sounds funny, but not unusual. But we ran out of material, so I just sat down and started writing pieces. And most of side 2, there's a couple that aren't, but most of side 2 is me just sitting down and either writing pieces in the studio or the day before, or finding old recordings of ours that I could somehow find a way to warp them and fit them into this other side 2 that we still needed to fill out. So that's why that album never ceases to amaze me, because you have side 1, which was kind of this very laid out kind of blueprinted first side of a record, and then side 2 is this incredible Frankenstein of just pieces that weren't really meant to go together, that didn't go together. And you just sort of said, well, I think if I put it together this way, I can fool enough people that they'll think it was supposed to go together. Aha! And that's what side 2 is like, which is really bizarre to me, because if you ever, some people, and that album, having looked back, wow, I'm talking a lot today, more than I've talked in the last 10 years about this. It's great. Anyways, I get that album is like a love-hate record. People love side 1 or they hate side 1. People love side 2 or they hate side 2, and it never ceases to amaze me. If you really knew the divide between the two albums and how they were created and just the whole thing that went into it, you would never believe it's the same band. You just never would. It just makes no sense. There's no cohesiveness to that record at all to me, and that's partly why I love it. Quite frankly, looking back, I look back and I go, God, that record is just so darn strange. I'm so glad I did that.
And they are going to play another song. What song is this, Meg?
This is called Crass Amé.
Crass Amé. Well, you guys take it away.
I'll say I knew you in a ring of gold upon wet grass under dewy fog when air was off. The vapors danced, we laughed like children, unaware of the dawn. Grass-a-may, grass-a-may, grass-a-may.
Louise called me up out of the blue, who was the singer on Welcome, and she wanted to do some recordings. And I really wasn't going to call it 17 Pygmies until I was, and I don't really know why. I mean, it's not that long ago, but I was just under the impression that Robert was going to be in it too. So I thought, well, if the three of us are going to be in it, why not call it 17 Pygmies? And then shortly thereafter, I found out that, Robert and Louise, because I didn't know what happened over their history, that they were divorced, etc., fill in the blank, everything. Well, I just didn't know that they couldn't play in the same sandbox together anymore, unless they were going to throw blocks at each other. So I said, oh, great. And so by that time, it was already a 17 Pygmies project. And I decided that I'd always wanted to work with some of these fellows that I used to know down in San Diego, who at that time, way back when, were in a band called White Glove Test. Really neat stuff, though. I really, to this day, really like that band. And just through one happenstance or another, I managed to find out where Jeff Brenneman was. And I spoke to him and I said, well, you should have always been in the band anyways. I mean, blah, 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 blah. So how about joining now? And he said, great. And I said, do you still know Tony? And he said, yeah. I said, well, see if you can get Tony. And then he knew a drummer. And she played with us for a little while, but then Dirk signed on recently because Dirk also was one of the drummers in White Glove Test. So, in fact, I got 3 members of the band rather than the one I really wanted. Not that I didn't want just one, but I got 3. Woohoo! And so that was really great. And so that's how we came today. And again, nothing personal, but even more than me wanting to call it 17 Pygmies, which wasn't really a great requirement of mine, everybody else really wanted to call it 17 Pygmies. And I said, I guess everyone wants to be a pygmy once in their life, so what the heck? And that's why it's 17 Pygmies, really. if you look back through the history of the band, it's always been, I know this is way more popular now than it was then, but it was always more of a collective group. Always more. It's like whoever was around, whoever wanted to play. I mean, even the core members of the band really switched around a lot. I'm the only person who's ever been in every iteration of the band, but that's by absolute default and not design. And in fact, when the band broke up that we talked about before, Robert had actually talked about going on with the band name, and I said, sure. I mean, I can't understand why anybody not only would, well, I don't understand it anyways, why anyone would want the name, but I mean, considering also the history of the band, I mean, it just didn't seem right to me that, you know, just because I wasn't in 17 Pygmies, there couldn't be 17 Pygmies. So, now he never did that. He actually ended up starting another band, but I mean, I remember having this conversation where, sure, why not? I mean, why can't you have, you know, call it the 17 Pygmy Starship? I don't care what you do with the band, doesn't matter to me. And so it's always been that kind of a band, where it's always been kind of like, as I've kind of explained it before, once or twice over the years, 17 Pygmies was never a band that would say why. We weren't a why band. You didn't really have to justify what you did, what you brought to the table, direction, influence. Sometimes you had to answer the question, why not? So in other words, things would come in first, then be discarded later, maybe. But it always came in first, and so we had more of a why not attitude than a why attitude. We weren't so focused on why the mysteries of the universe were unfolding in our music. We were more like, why can't we do this? That was always much more important. It's like, why can't we do this? Is there any reason we can't? So, and then of course the other big question in 17 Pygmies is always, are we done? Because, you know, the problem is when things keep coming in is you don't know when to stop. That was actually our biggest problem. We never had a problem coming in. It was like just closing the spigot was always a problem in that band. And one day you just have to say, we're done. And everyone kind of look at each other in these hushed tones. We're done? Yeah, we're done. Click. Off goes the machine, and we were done. We'd never go back. That was it. And I could never tell you when that would come. It would be 1 day, 1 year, 10 years. I don't know. Just had to wait for it. It's just this, I don't know. Yeah. And that was how the band operated, basically, for all those years.